All right, today it's real hot. Well, it's not hot as it was the other day, yesterday, but it's real warm here in Vegas. And I guess it's at least about 100 degrees. So usually the last couple of days it's been about 110, 113, 14, somewhere like that. So it's been pretty hot where you can like cook a egg on the sidewalk almost. All right, I want to talk a little bit about Europe a little bit, since it's been in the news with European Union. And mainly I want to talk about the relationship as far as here in America, how Europe, well, mainly how things here in America kind of worked out and what happened in Europe, things like that. Anyway, the Europeans, they colonized Europe. I'm not saying that they did a bad job, but mainly I think that they thought that they owned this particular area here. That's what I'm thinking, because Russia, which is part of Europe, and all the black nobilities there, they was all kind of connected, all the Europeans, the black Europeans. And so I think that they thought that they actually owned the America, because a lot of the blacks that came over from Africa and colonized this, mainly from Cameroon and places like that. But it was some Indians here also, and I don't know whether Indians, how they actually came here, or if they was mainly brought here from Russia, because it was so much movement of people at that time, because the Egyptians, they had ships, real fast ships, yachts where they can move around. So it wasn't necessarily where you was waiting on a boat to come back from somewhere, because it always had constant movement of people all the time, from different countries everywhere. They even had this one particular guy. He was from I guess West Africa, and this happened recently, and he drifted over here on a boat. So it wasn't necessarily you need to have this big high technology to really get over here, So what eventually happened in Europe was it became so overcrowded that they needed, because you look at Europe on a map, most of those countries, England, France, Germany, those was a small area, and then it started to really get populated, heavily populated, so they needed somewhere to go. And I think that they actually thought that they owned this. Well, anyway, they gave claim to it anyway. So they eventually colonized the Caribbean first, because this, I'm thinking, why did they come over to the Caribbean first? Because they knew all this areas. They knew how to get here. They have been, because people used to come over here all the time. It was the Africans, all the traders used to come over here to trade. So it was no secret about this particular place. And plus, a lot of these Europeans was highly educated. They was educated on on maps and use the word astronomy, but they knew how to get around. They knew how to navigate and all that. I'm not a seaman, so I don't know anything about that. But anyway, people at that time, they knew how to navigate through the seas and how to find things. They wasn't, these people was not, because they had so many colleges. Well, they didn't have that many colleges, but they had enough colleges where certain people could get educated at. And, well, anyway, Europe was really overcrowded because they had this mass exodus of people from Asia because of Genghis Khan and his, maneuvers and stuff. So Europe was just overcrowded. So they needed, and plus there was a lot of other problems too. Mainly diseases and stuff like that. So they need to kind of thin the people out, use a for lack of a better word. So they decide to move a lot of the people over here to the Americas. But it was a lot of people that was already over here. So what they eventually decided to do was start a place where, mainly in the Caribbean, little small places where they can take over and wouldn't have to have that many people, mercenaries, to do it. So mainly they took over a lot of the islands there. I think Hispaniola was one of them, and they eventually took, but it took an effort to almost all of Europe. Holland, I don't know, Belgium was in there, but I know Portugal. So it took I don't know how much involvement Russia was in there, but mainly Spain, Portugal, England. I think France was involved mainly because they took over some areas in the Caribbean, and also in Western Canada, and also they took over the Midwest, that particular area too. So mainly this was an effort of almost all of Europe because it was overcrowded. So they needed somewhere to. So mainly they needed somewhere to go, to move some of the people to, and this particular place was, because they didn't necessarily, I think, want to move them up to China or places like that, because I don't think they had the manpower, and they didn't know, I don't think they knew that much about it. And so this is someplace I think the Americans, they knew something about, and that's where they eventually went, because it would take a lot of effort, I think, to try to take over China and that particular area, because it was a large area, and it was a lot of cold, cold. It was a cold area there. There's a lot of cold areas there too, so it would take a lot of effort. But the Americans, I don't think they didn't really. They mainly went down to the Caribbean first. They established some areas there, and then that's when they started. Then they came up to the Americas and started moving people down to the Caribbean, where they had plantations and stuff like that. So it was mainly an all-European effort, where they put all their forces together to do it.